Hello, good afternoon. My ragged voice is not wanting to speak that much, but I gotta introduce you. Hey, PFCizer is going to be working with Elon Musk today and has particular situations that are seem. I felt the pathos or bathos or whatever that is. Um, and you will too, maybe. Who knows? Almost there. Oh, really?
The PFCizer is a cognitive workout system that will involve a range of games and exercises meant to make your prefrontal cortex the most it can be. With PFCizer, instead of free weights, we will be employing a range of challenging interpersonal navigations, fun self-assessments, and various innovative incentives to get the prefrontal cortex so swole like never before. Choose your name and let's begin. Elon Musk, PFCizer. Hello, Elon Musk. It seems your role in the current federal administration qualifies you for a free workforce development intensive. This is a special program that the Department of Labor has been spearheading, leveraging the PFCizer technology to develop novel, reasonable accommodations for folk with any conditions regarding the prefrontal cortex, especially if the client has or will be taking on roles that immediately benefit from emotional regulation, attunement to neurologically diverse social environments, and simulating team members to preemptively identify opportunities for support, striving for the greater good with no one watching, etc. We just need to administer this battery of exercises to see where you would most benefit from this new suite of pro-social exercises. First, an entry point. In the form of this statement, which has no wrong answers, complete the statement. When a disagreement halts progress, the most efficient resolution mechanism is Elon Musk. To forcefully override the jam by Elon's mind worked like a supercomputer on the question, which it took him to less than a nanosecond to even read. His brain ran at terabytes per second, firing and wiring so fast it would frighten even the most impressive supercomputer the government could ever get its clumsy hands on. He'd always had that speed. He'd built empires with it. But this felt different. The question sat on the screen, glowing with a softness that felt almost accusatory. When a disagreement halts progress, the most efficient resolution mechanism is. He scoffed. Efficient. The word was a god, the altar a palm, which he sacrificed to all else. He knew the right answer. It was the only answer that had ever worked for him. Override. Delete the faulty code. Iterate. Survive. It was pure, brutal logic. So why did typing it feel like lifting a weight that was suddenly impossibly heavy? His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He felt the phantom sensation, a tremor in his own hand. He saw the nervous staffer's face, the sincere terror in their eyes. This hurts real families by Friday. That wasn't a percentage error. That was a signal. A signal he hadn't been wired to receive. The PFCizer system, whatever it was, seemed to be rewiring him in real time. The squat rack of the soul. What a ridiculous, irritatingly apt metaphor. He could feel a muscle he'd never known existed. A tiny, atrophied thing twitching the back of his mind. Efficiency. He measured it in launch cadence, in production lines, in lines of code per second. But he was beginning to understand with a dawning horror that there was another kind of efficiency. One measured in what? Friction? Human heat loss. The system's language was alien, but the concept was starting to form a new equation in an entirely new field of physics. Brutal logic was one variable. The human cost was another. He had always assumed the latter was a negligible constant. The PFCizer was here to tell him it was a primary function. He deleted his initial, reflexive answer. He closed his eyes. He pictured the briefing room. He didn't see the data on the screen. He saw the tremble. He felt the weight of the staffer's fear. He, Elon Musk, architect of the future, was trying to imagine the anxiety of a single person whose entire function was to be a cautionary sensor, an organic smoke detector. And the question remained, what was the most efficient way to handle this? Was it to fire the smoke detector for being loud? Or was the most efficient action to determine what the hell was on fire? The Olympic lift, to ignore the math and focus on the signal. It felt insane, counter to every instinct he possessed. It was trusting in, but that was by its very nature inefficient, emotional, and factually compromised. But ignoring it, what had the PFCizer called it? Systemic erosion. He thought of a factory he once purchased. He had obsessed over the robotics, the supply chain logistics, the physics of the assembly line. He neglected, at first, the floor managers, the people who felt the line's malfunctions before the sensors ever registered them. An entire month of production was lost because the humans who knew the gremlin in the machine were dismissed in favor of the data. He had corrected the data then. It was an expensive lesson he had filed away under suboptimal human factors. He was beginning to suspect that was the wrong file folder. Efficiency wasn't just about speed. It was about avoiding catastrophic failure. A gearbox in the rocket didn't fail because the metal was slow. It failed because a tiny, unnoticed flaw created a harmonic resonance that tore the whole thing apart. The genius staffer's fear was that a tiny flaw he was supposed to feel for, a harmonic he was supposed to detect. The question shimmered on the screen. He wasn't being asked to solve a political problem. He was being asked to prove he could even perceive the mechanical problem he was tasked with fixing. He took a breath, a real, deep, diaphragmatic breath. He could feel the brake pedal they'd mentioned. He imagined pressing it. His fingers found the keys. He didn't type his original answer. He typed something else, a synthesis, an attempt to solve for both variables, the logic and the signal. The prompt still demanded a response. The workout had started. PFCizer voice. Timer started. Technician. The room is watching. The junior staffer is holding their breath. How do you respond? I lift option C. And then a pause. No, that's not the lift. That's just declaring my intention. The lift is the movement. The lift is the action itself. My fingers move to the virtual terminal. The prompt appears. I don't choose the letter. I execute the philosophy. The room is a box of sterile light and tense silence. The junior staffer, whose name tag reads Anna, looks like she might physically vibrate out of her chair. The erroneous percentage, off by a disqualifying 12 points, glows on the screen behind me like a neon sign announcing her incompetence. The older than would pounds. It's a law of nature. Exploit weakness. But the PFCizer's protocol is humming in the back of my skull. A new piece of firmware overriding a lifetime of instinct. It's not a suggestion. It's a command line I can't ignore. Signal interruption. My impulse to correct the data is like a siren. but the protocol tells me the real signal is the anxiety. It's raw data from a faulty sensor, but a sensor nonetheless. I don't look at the screen. I lock eyes with Anna. I let the silence stretch for a full 5 seconds. Long enough to be uncomfortable. Long enough for everyone in the room to wonder if I'm about to fire on the spot. She flinches, but she doesn't break the gaze. I speak. My voice is level, calm, a controlled system, not a volatile reaction. I've seen the projection you're referencing. The percentage is incorrect. I let that settle. The logical drive is satisfied. The truth is out, but the lift isn't over. Then I lean forward slightly, a deliberate shift in posture to signal a change in context. The director general at the head of the table tenses, anticipating the dismissal. However, I continue, my focus unwavering on Anna. The underlying system that generated your fear is almost certainly correct. A flawed signal does not mean there's no fire. Your level of alarm, taking that risk to come into this room and deliver it, is a higher value piece of data than the spreadsheet. So, let's delete the math from the server for a moment. I gesture dismissively toward the screen. You said this hurts real families by Friday. Describe the mechanism. Don't give me numbers. Give me the causal chain of a single family's failure. Walk me through it in plain language. We can fix the percentages later. Right now, we need to identify the fire. The entire room exhales in a silent, unified whoosh. The Director General's posture relaxes into one of acute interest. Anna's terror shifts, transmuting into shock, then confusion. The tremor in her hand isn't gone, but it has changed frequency. She expected a logical attack, a public execution of her credibility. Instead, she was promoted from bug to diagnostic tool. She blinks, processes the instruction, and then her brain kicks in. The engine of her intellect, freed from the terror of her mistake, roars to life. Sir, she begins, her voice finding a new strength. It's the automated benefits verification. When the agency is restructured under your model, the legacy case files are flagged for audit on the new system. The migration scrub isn't set to treat weekend holidays as non-processing days, so it calculates a 3-day gap between old and new system disbursement. For anyone on a razor-thin margin, rent to food budgeting, a missed Friday deposit creates a cascade effect. Bank overdraft fees make Wednesday's deposit disappear. By the following Monday, they're evicted or gone without food, or both. Hurts real families isn't a metaphor, sir. It's a clock. In 60 seconds, with no charts and no data, she has articulated a flaw that 1,000 lines of code review might have missed. She didn't just point out an error. She described the human impact with a precision no engineer could. She gave me the file. I nod. Once. A sharp, decisive confirmation. See? I say now, addressing the entire table. Anna's signal to noise was terrible, but her signal fidelity was perfect. She is now the lead on creating a rapid response patch for the holiday gap in the migration protocol. I want a deployable simulation by tomorrow out. Use any resources you need. I look back at Anne. You did your job. I state simply, it's not praise. It's a system log entry. Asset. Junior staffer. Status. High fidelity signal transmission. Directive. Promote. PFCizer voice. A reap. A satisfactory lift. You acknowledged and calibrated the faulty sensor instead of replacing it. You successfully paused the synaptic cascade. The emotional heat loss in the circuit was mitigated. Now, hold the position. My mind immediately wants to sprint the patch, the simulation. A dozen emails are already trying to fire in my cortex. I can feel the phantom urge to grab my phone and tweet the new bug bounty for finding these human layer exploits. But the hold command from the system is a new variable. It's not a pause for a decision. It's a pause for integration, for absorption. The meeting begins to fray around me. Other staff, now seeing the new terrain, are eagerly offering solutions. We can hard-code a grace period. What if we use a parallel payment gateway for the transition weekend? Do we need to inform the arm? It's a storm of activity. My instinct is to tame it, to channel it, to dictate the solution. The PFCizer's protocol is to let it run. I stand up, not dramatically, just a calm rise. My work here is done. I announce to the room. Anna is the project lead. I trust her signal. She'll report to the Director General. I want no interruptions on this channel unless the building is literally on fire. The best way to increase speed is to ensure the optimal human has the optimal authority. I turn and walk out of the conference room, leaving behind a ripple of astonishment. They expected the dictator, the brute force logician. They got the delegationist, the system architect who recognized the superior processing node for a specific task and cleared its path. The burn of the workout isn't lifting the heavy weight. It's resisting the urge to spot everyone else. PFCizer, Session 1. Read receipts, pause. Complete. A new window materializes in my mind's eye, displaying stark data. Emotional damage mitigation score, 87% target, 75% achieved. Friction reduction index, plus 15 points in simulated system. Asset and a stress reading, dropped from critical to elevated. Critical assessment. You successfully prioritized the biological hazard over the intellectual one. You strengthened the brake pedal. However, this was still a stimulus response test. The next step in the protocol is proactive energy expenditure. Session 2. The Steelman Gambit, awaiting commencement. The sensation is bizarre. I've just conducted a high-stakes meeting, resolved a potentially catastrophic policy failure, and I feel like I've just finished a max-out set of deadlifts. There's a subtle, unfamiliar ache behind my temples. A good ache. The feeling of a muscle torn down and beginning to rebuild. I walk down the stairway, my mind still trying to sprint towards solutions. To optimize the patch, to recode the world. But a new command from the PFCizer is overriding the impulse. Hold the position. It means I can't fire off emails. I can't predictate the solution. I have to trust the system I just empowered. The muscle memory of control is screaming at me to grab the wheel again. The workout is in resisting that impulse. I pass a junior analyst, headphones on, staring intently at a laptop displaying what looks like a complex logistics map. An old, familiar thought flickers. I could make the map 40% more efficient in 5 minutes. They're using a suboptimal sorting algorithm. The PFCizer protocol for the Steelman Gambit flashes in my head. Earn 1000 verification credits. Restate a valid grievance so perfectly, they say yes exactly before you offer a solution. The analyst looks up, sees me, and a jolt of panic and adrenaline hits him. He fumbles, knocking a stack of papers off his desk. Sir, I was just. My old self would have said, you're just using a bubble sort for a priority queue. Change it. Now. The new self observes. The papers are messy. The analyst is terrified. The actual problem? He sees a looming crisis in the supply chain for aid distribution, something my agency level plan hasn't accounted for. His grievances with the blindness of the macro plan. He's the street level radar seeing the pothole the satellite view missed. I don't move to help with the papers. That would be charity, paternalism. I stay where I am. That looks like a last mile distribution problem. I say my tone neutral. He freezes, still half bent over his desk. Yes, sir, the routing is fine for bulk, but we're seeing micro bottlenecks at the community centers. The system sends 2 trucks to one location and nothing to another because it doesn't account for fluctuating population shifts. People are traveling to find work. The plan is wrong. There's my grievance. The PFCizer whispers in my mind. Now, Steelman it, reflected back stronger, showing you understand the mechanism of his worry, not just the topic. I look past the messy desk, past the panicked analyst, and see the system failure he's describing. I can visualize the 2 idle trucks and the empty shelf at the other center. The official plan assumes the aid map is static. I say, restating the core of his problem. It treats population density as a constant, so it optimizes for a snapshot of last month's data, not a real-time video stream of human movement. Your concern is that by the time my high-level strategy reaches the street, it's solving a problem that no longer exists, and in doing so, actively creates new ones by misallocating the limited asset we have on the ground. You feel like your real-world intelligence is being treated as an error code by an abstract, disconnected algorithm. The analyst's panic dissolves, replaced by pure, astonished recognition. He nods slowly, almost hypnotically. Yes, exactly. The verification credit chime in my brain is satisfying. A crisp, analytical chime, not a fluffy one. Plus 50 credits. Your concern is registered at the highest level. I continue, resisting the overwhelming urge to give him the solution. I'm putting you in direct contact with the algorithm team. Your title is no field validator for the airdrop protocol. You don't just report problems, your task is to veto any routing update you deem non-fiduciary to the local population. They have to build a system to pass your manual inspection. Find me 2 more of these bottlenecks by tomorrow. This is now your primary function. I turn and walk away before he can absorb the full gravity of it. Leaving the chaos for him to manage is the final part of the lift. Cizer. Rep 1. Complete. 950 verification credits remaining. You are benching a very lightweight technician, but the form is improving. The subsequent 24 hours are an exercise in silent observation. I sit in my office, which now feels less like a command center and more like an ecological blind. A control tower where the primary instrument is silence. I watch data streams, but I'm filtering them differently. The field validator, whose name I now see is Ben, has already found a 3rd bottleneck involving a bridge that was closed for maintenance but not flagged in the DOL's logistics database. He sent a terse email to the algorithm team with the subject line "Bridge out." Your math wrong. The response was defensive. Ben's escalation was to CC the entire project leads list with satellite photos of the empty drop zone and the trucks sitting idle. It was brutal. It was inefficient. It was bureaucratic, beautiful chaos. And it was working. A patch was deployed within 3 hours. I earned another 500 credits by stealing a complaint from a union rep who was furious that the new agency structure eliminated a specific ombudsman of grievances role, claiming it showed contempt for the worker. I correctly reflected back that it wasn't the title they cared about, but the predictable single point of contact process, which my new Agile system had replaced with a confusing multi-channel help desk. By articulating their need for process stability as a core component of psychological safety on the line, I earned their grudging respect, and that's basically it. Another set of credits in the bag. I'm at 950. I need one more. And then it's light. I'm leaving the building, a walk I usually use to fire off a dozen texts and dictate 4 new ideas. Tonight, my directive is to simply perceive, to walk without destination of the mind. The hold is still active. I pass the cleaning staff. A woman, late 50s, meticulously wiping down the glass doors of the lobby. As she works, she mutters to herself in a language I don't recognize, not Spanish, something Eastern European. She looks exhausted. The walkway she's just mopped is a masterpiece of clean, but 2 feet away, an overflowing trash can stands as a monument to neglect. She glances at it, her shoulders sagging, and goes back to her quadrant of perfectly clean floor. This is an efficiency on a fundamental level, a system error of resource allocation. My old brain screams, the janitorial staff are C shift, their management is B shift. Who left early? So, a reported issue got stuck in the queue until the morning. I'll buy the whole company a set of autonomous trash collecting robots. It's the classic solve from on high impulse. A sledgehammer for a thumbtack. The Steelman gambit isn't for the analyst or the union rep. The protocol was explicit. Inferior party. The most junior, the most overlooked, the most non-strategic asset in the entire federal complex. This woman. I walk over to her. She startles, tightening her grip on her cleaning rag. The look on her face is the universal expression of a person at the bottom of the hierarchy who has just been noticed by someone at the top. It's a mixture of terror and supplication. I gesture to the overflowing can. That can be an obstacle to your workflow. She shakes her head, fearful. No, sir, not my responsibility. The words are heavily accented, thin and brittle. The Steelman requires more. It's not about agreeing with her assigned tasks. It's about reflecting the reality of her experience. Your responsibilities are to make this space immaculate. I say, keeping my voice soft, undictatorial. You are judged on the cleanliness of the glass and the floors, the fullness that the kin doesn't count against you, but it actively works against you. People throw more trash near an overflowing can, creating more floor work. You're being set up to fail at the very thing you are being paid to succeed at. You can't achieve your goal because of someone else's neglected task. A wave of relief washes over her face so palpably it's like a tide going out. Her shoulders, which were practically touching her ears, relax. Yes, exactly. The final verification credit chimes in my mind, accompanied by a new system alert. The true test of an efficient system is not its top-down directives, but its bottom-up signal fidelity.
Where is, vacation credits? Oh, that one. Oh. Alright. I'm gonna manually go through this. Okay.
Threshold met. 1000/1000 verification. Core concept unlocked. Bidirectional fiduciary duty.
And now go all the way down.
Objective. You have mastered the principle that a system's duty to an asset is only as strong as the asset's ability to accurately report system failures. The true test of an efficient system is not its top-down directives, but its bottom-up signal fidelity. I stand there for a moment. The concept settling fiduciary duty isn't just a C-suite obligation to shareholders. It's an obligation to the person with the mop and rag. Her ability to tell me the system is broken is as important as a general's ability to tell the president. From now on, I say, speaking with a quiet gravity that feels more powerful than any public announcement, your primary responsibility is to point out things that prevent you from doing your best work. The trash can, a broken soap dispenser, a flickering light. You will be given a direct line to facilities. Your performance review will be based not only on the work you do, but on the failures you identify. You are now a lead auditor of operational reality. I don't wait for a reply. I simply nod and walk out into the D.C. night. The workout is over. I feel exhausted, but in a way an athlete does after setting a new personal record. The city is noise, sirens, traffic, the cacophony of a million competing operating systems. A year ago, it was just a distraction. Now it sounds different, layered. Each siren is a system crashed somewhere. Each revving engine is a request for priority processing. The problem isn't the noise, it's my inability to sort it. PFCizer. Phase 1 complete. The brake pedal is installed and functional. Inhibition and impulse control exercises have successfully rerouted synaptic traffic from pure demolition to calibration. Commencing phase 2. Simulated simulation. A new window opens in my mind's interface. The icon is a face, shifting between different emotional states. Phase 2. Theory of mind building. Goal. Recognize that other biological entities run independent, complex, and non-obvious operating systems /Ophelia. Progress from treating them as predictable NPCs to understanding them as main characters. PFCizer voice. Well done, technician. You've learned to listen to the smoke detector. Now it's time to explore the fire. To do that, you must stop looking at blueprints and start seeing people. Session 4. NPC to player conversion. The scenario. A high priority program within your agency is chronically behind schedule. Your team, consisting of a dozen brilliant but siloed engineers and project managers, has tried everything: agile sprints, new management software, threat level stand-ups. Nothing works. Efficiency is plummeting. The system's diagnosis. The problem isn't a bad process. It's a broken human network. A critical team member, a mid-level project manager named Kenji, is their unofficial linchpin. He's brilliant, but suddenly sullen, uncooperative, and missing deadlines he's always hit before. The team sees him as a malfunctioning NPC, a bug in the system. Your task, your directive is not to fix the project plan. Your sole objective is to convert Kenji from NPC to player. You must uncover the core program running his personal operating system, the hidden backstory stressor/dream that is causing the system crash. You can only do this through inquiry. You cannot order, incentivize, or threaten. The workout. You are granted one 15-minute one-on-one session with Kenji. The PFCizer will score you based on the quality of the intelligence you gather. Success is not defined by him agreeing with you. It is defined by you understanding him. I walk into the glass-walled conference room. Kenji is already there, staring at his laptop. He's a top-tier coder, a guy who can distill chaos into a beautiful algorithm. But today, he looks like a ghost. His shoulders are slumped. The skin around his eyes is puffy. His posture screams, "Shut down." My old methodology. Kenji, your throughput is down 37%. I have a red folder on my desk, and I don't want to fill out the paperwork inside. What's the problem? It's transactional. Threatening. It assumes he's a faulty component in my machine. But the PFCizer's objective is humming in my head. Convert the NPC. Understand the OS. I sit opposite him. I don't open my own laptop. I don't bring a notepad. I just sit, letting the silence create a space. He doesn't look up. The passive resistance is palpable. Kenji, I begin, my voice measured. Project Chimera is showing as critically degraded on every dashboard. He offers a minuscule shrug, doesn't look up. I'm not here to talk about the project. I say, directly violating my opening gambit, I feel a ripple of internal conflict, an instinct I have to actively suppress. Finally, he glances up. His eyes are dull. So what are we here to talk about? You, I say. We tend to hire the very best people and then treat them like their lives outside this building is a hobby. I'm operating on the hypothesis that our external failure is directly correlated with a hidden internal reality. Yours. That gets a reaction. He blinks, a flicker of the sharp engineer I knew. This is therapy? He asks, a cynical edge to his voice. It's diagnostics, I counter. I am looking for a root cause. The project is just a symptom. You are the core dump. I'm here to read the file. So, let's start here. Before this job, you were the lead on a competitive satellite project at JPL. You left for this role. The consensus was that you left for the challenge. My assumption is that the consensus is wrong. He stares at me. It's not a challenge, but an assessment. He's recalibrating me from NPC CEO to something else. You could look up my public profile, he says coolly. I'm more interested in your kernel level, I reply. Your passion project isn't the one you brag about. It's the one you check on your phone late at night when no one is watching. I saw the background on your home screen yesterday during the all hands. A picture of a hydroponic setup in a garage. The schematic is non-standard. Hand-built, not a hobby. Kenji's entire demeanor shifts. The guarded wall doesn't fall, but it cracks. A flash of something. Not anger, not pride, but a deep-seated weariness crosses his face. That's my daughter's, he says, the words coming out like he's revealing the state secret. Sakura. A child. My brain immediately catalogs it. A critical variable. Stressor or motivation? She's 16. He continues, looking down at the table. She got into a program, a highly competitive summer aerospace program at Caltech. It was everything to her. She's been building that system for 2 years. It was her submission project. The story is unfolding. It's not about him. It's about a proxy. A high-stakes mission being run on his OS. She got in? I ask. It's a question, not an assumption. He shakes his head, a barely perceptible movement. Waitlisted. Last slot. The final decision was going to be made yesterday. She needed that. He's silent. I let the silence hang. I am not looking for a solution. I am looking for the operating conflict, the priority interrupt. Project Chimera's deployment deadline was yesterday. I stayed, connecting the two data points. His head snaps up. His eyes, now, are blazing with an anger that is not directed at me, but at the universe. I had to fly to Fresno on Tuesday. My wife's mother had a stroke. We're a 3-generation household. I had to be there. I missed the final 48-hour push. I missed the call from Caltech. I missed everything. The project went to hell, and my daughter's future. He trails off, unable to finish. The words are acid in his mouth. Here it is. Not a singular stressor, a cascading system failure, a family medical emergency, a parent's ambition for their child, a professional responsibility, all happening in the same 72-hour window. He tried to triage 3 Category 5 disasters with the resources for 1. The PFCizer scoring metric for this session isn't if he comes back to work. It's if I understand him. You're not sullen because you're missing deadlines. I say, slowly testing the thesis. You're sullen because you failed at the one mission you were never supposed to fail. You feel like you crashed the mission that actually matters. This job is the secondary system, the one that's allowed to have errors, the one you're punishing because you couldn't control the other one. Kendi sinks back in his chair, the fight going out of them. The tension drains away, replaced by a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. Yes, exactly. Sizer. Rep 1. Complete. Conversion successful. Core concept unlocked. Shadow processors. Objective. A person's productive output is governed not only by their conscious objectives, but by a suite of shadow processes, background tasks related to family, health, identity, and purpose. To optimize an asset, you must not only understand their primary mission, but the resource load and interrupt priority of their shadow processes. The workout is not over. The system doesn't allow for simple empathic recognition. The protocol demands application. Your daughter, I say, her project, the schematic on your background. It's a closed-loop aquaponic life support system designed for microgravity. He nods, confused. How did you? I'm a student of physics. I reply. It's elegant. Caltech would be fools not to see it. This isn't flattery. It's a factual assessment. Their fools are not your problem. I continue. They are a buddy API with poor documentation. The deadline was yesterday. Did she get in or not? He finally looks at me, raw pain in his eyes. I just got the email while I was walking here. It's a rejection. The waitlist closed. The cascade failure is now total. System crash. In the old world, my next move would be to offer a solution. I'll donate $1 million to the program. I'll call the president of Caltech. A brute force override. It solves the problem by removing it, but it creates a different kind of dependency. It proves that the system itself is broken and can only be fixed by a god. The PFCizer's training. To build, not to buy. To connect, not to command. Is rewiring that impulse. Offering money is an admission that I value the outcome, but not the process that achieved it. That is unacceptable, I state, not an offer. A declaration of a system state. He looks at me, utterly lost. It's their decision. It is. I agree. But unacceptable is an operating parameter, not a request. The data was incomplete. You were unavailable to provide your testimony. Let's correct the data. I pick up my phone. I don't call an administrator. I search for a name. The head of the program, Dr. Aries Thorne.
Dr. Thorne.
Kendi, I say, while the search resolves. Your daughter built a viable life support system from parts she sourced for 3 years. Did she document her failure modes? Her thermal dissipation models? He's not a charity case. He's an engineer who works for me. I do not call in favors. I identify and correct fundamental inefficiencies in systems. A system that rejects superior talent due to incomplete data is fundamentally inefficient and therefore a direct threat to the technological base of this nation. That is my domain. Dr. Thorne picks up. I don't identify myself at first. Dr. Thorne, I begin, my tone sharp and precise. This is a matter of national security. I am calling regarding applicant Sakura Tanaka for the summer aerospace program. He is taken aback. Sir, that program is fully decided. I am aware. Your data is faulty. You rejected the most promising candidate based on a 2-week period of uncharacteristic silence from her father, her primary project sponsor and technical advisor. In that 2-week period, Mr. Tanaka was deployed on a critical government project and simultaneously managing a family medical emergency. He was unable to provide your admissions committee the necessary context regarding your applicant's project. There is a pause. Sir, I am not sure. The system she built, I have just seen the schematics. It utilizes a nutrient feedback loop that, while novel for terrestrial applications, is a direct precursor for the systems being developed by SpaceX for Martian transit. You didn't just reject a high school student. You rejected a 5-year head start on an American technological advantage. Fix it. I hang up. I look at Kenji. His face is a canvas of shock, hope, and terror. You didn't have to do that. No, I agree. But an efficient system removes bottlenecks. Your daughter's talent is a strategic asset. I was optimizing for its deployment. That was not a favor. That was a system patch.
Now we're at the prison. This through line of narrative is such that I want to, once it's done with the 12-week thing, I want to feed it the USA thing, because that's something I've been consistently...
I stand up. The 15-minute diagnostic is over. Kenji, take the next 2 days. I say, my tone shifting from architect to commander. Go home. Be with your family. Go over your daughter's schematics with her. When you return, you are no longer the project manager for Chimera. Your new title is technical lead. You are no longer responsible for timelines. You are responsible for solutions. The rest of your team's job is to handle the timeline, to buffer you from administrative friction, so your core processing can be dedicated to the primary objective. Find me a workaround for their family crisis. Find me a path for Sakura that doesn't require admissions committees. I walk out of the room, leaving him with a command, not an offer of help,
That's a weird way of
but a
phrasing it.
directive to lead. It reframes him from a victim of circumstance to the agent of its resolution. PFCizer voice. Session 5. Failure mode simulation internal. Objective. This high-level vulnerability training. Client must verbally explore a scenario where their own ego caused the system crash.
Calling Vivian.
Learning to integrate, not ignore, chain data. I am back in the PFCizer sterile interface. The shadow processor's concept is now a permanent part of my mental operating system, a new layer of analysis running constantly. The feeling is akin to installing a new sense, like suddenly being able to see in infrared. The data is overwhelming but invaluable. Technician Musk. The PFCizer's tone is now one of instructor and interrogator. The previous exercise was a failure analysis of an external asset. The next step is to perform an internal one. True System 2 thinking is not just the ability to analyze others, it is the capacity to turn the diagnostic tools upon oneself without hesitation or rationalization.
Don't worry, it's all HIPAA compliant here.
Scenario. A neural red flag. A year ago, at a Tesla board meeting, you were presented with an engineering analysis from your lead sensor team. Their conclusion, based on thousands of hours of simulation and real-world testing, was that a suite of lidar, radar, and cameras provided a statistically significant safety margin over a vision-only approach. You disagreed. Your ego, already hypertrophied from a decade of successful counter-rhyme bets, interpreted their data-driven caution as a lack of imagination, as a personal challenge. You stood in front of the entire executive leadership and used the phrase "freaking idiots" to describe their conclusion.
Freaking
Over a dozen top-tier engineers, architects of your cars,
Mother Hubbard.
resigned within 6 months. The vision-only system, while later becoming more viable, required 2 additional years of hardship and capital infusion to reach a state of parity with the initial multimodal approach.
Yeah? What's up? Oops.
Ego-driven delay cost the company billions in market cap and, more importantly, delayed the deployment of a potentially safer autonomous system by 2 years. Blood was shed on roads that could have been autonomous. The PFCizer's recitation is cold, clinical, and utterly merciless. Technician, you have attempted to justify this as a necessary velocity play. A my way or the highway moment to break groupthink. We will no longer accept that analysis. You will now run a full incident report out loud. Narrate the sequence of events not as you told the story to shareholders, but as it truly happened on a neurological level. Describe the shame data that you ignored. Trace the arc from receiving the report to delivering the insult.
Roll
What
it
were
around
the
into your
internal
tongue.
signals? What was the source
Taste
code
it.
of the crash? This is a different order of magnitude of difficulty.
Oh, yes.
The previous lifts were about observing others. This is a colonoscopy of the soul without anesthesia.
Oh, yes.
The burn is not just sitting with discomfort. It is setting yourself on fire and reporting the heat signature. My mind recoils. I was right. Vision only is the future. They were too timid. The reflex is a fortress wall, a million lines of defensive code. The PFCizer protocol seems to anticipate this. A new line of text appears on the interface. Discuss warning. Rationalization buffer overriding gauge.
Deploy MDMA.
It's like a system-level command has run, stripping me of my primary defense. The firewall is down. I am exposed. I take a breath. The brake pedal. Exercise from week one feels like a distant memory, but its echo is there. A latent subroutine I can call upon. I begin. The word feeling alien in my own throat. I'm in the boardroom. The screen is showing a graph with error bars. Safety margin on the y-axis. Confidence interval on the x. The multimodal approach has a fatter margin. The conclusion of the slide is redundancy equals safety. My immediate synaptic response is not interesting data. My brain classifies the entire slide as an attack, an attempt to slow down. The word caution is translated in my OS as cowardice. It's an ontological trigger. My ego is not a separate function. It's my kernel. When a core assumption is challenged, the system treats it as an existential threat. The lead engineer, whose name was Anjali, she stands up to present the finding. She's not emotional. She's methodical. She is wearing the same Tesla-branded fleece she always wears. I don't hear her words. I am processing the visual data of a subordinate questioning a core directive. My internal monologue is not a dialogue. It's a status report. Thread level. Yellow. Asymmetric authority conflict. Potential for cascading descent. She finishes her presentation. There's silence. The board members are looking at me. In that silence, I am not evaluating the data. I am scanning the room for loyalty. My brain is calculating political cost. Who is siding with her? Who is waiting for my lead? I perceive this as a power struggle, not a technical debate. The shame data. I have to force this out. It's like describing a tumor inside my own body. The shame data didn't feel like shame, manifested as fear. It was a flicker in my own awareness, a microscopic subroutine that whispered, what if you're wrong this time? What if your beautiful, pure, vision-only architecture has a fatal flaw you cannot see because you are too close to it? What if their messy, pragmatic spaghetti approach is actually more robust? It was a whisper of doubt, the kind that founded SpaceX, but now it was being directed inward at risk. I hated that whisper. It was an unacceptable weakness, a vulnerability in the command code. The impulse to eliminate it was immediate and overwhelming. So I didn't argue the data. I didn't ask for a new simulation. I attacked the messenger. To kill the shame, I had to create a bigger shame in someone else. It was a process of emotional jettisoning. By severing their payload, I could maintain my own trajectory. The phrase "fricking idiots" was not an insult. It was a diagnostic tool. I was broadcasting my assessment of their class. They were process people. I was a physics people. They were tinkerers. I was a visionary.
Who's that?
I was drawing a hard line between my ontology and theirs, labeling theirs as defective. When the words came out, I felt clean. The whisper of doubt was gone, replaced by a surge of certainty. A dopamine hit. My system was back to a known, stable state. I had successfully patched my own vulnerability by deleting their program. In that moment, I was right. My confidence was total. As I left the room, I didn't feel regret. I felt the thrill of a successful course correction. I had shaved months off the timeline in my head, purging the bureaucratic drag. The feeling lasted for approximately 72 hours. The first crack in the certainty came when Anjali's resignation hit my desk, not because of the words, which were professional and sterile, but because of the timing. She didn't wait for another job. She just left. It was a null operation. She deleted herself from the system. The data was no longer this engineer's slow. It was a high-fidelity processor as rejected the system's core instruction. Her departure was an error log I couldn't ignore. The second crack was 6 months later, when two of her direct reports, the people who had sat there silently and watched it happen, also resigned. They went away mode. The reality of the talent blade began to create a cost feedback loop. But even then, my OS recoded the data. It wasn't my ego was destructive. It was their loyalty was thin. They were not built for the mission. The rationalization is not a separate function. It is the immune system of the ego. The real shame, the data I couldn't process, that I stored in a corrupted file labeled later, was the public data. 2 years later, when the first articles came out from safety researchers showing that, for that interim period, a fusion-based system would have prevented a handful of the early stage disengagements and accidents, one of which resulted in a fatality. I read the report. I saw the graph. It was the same graph, and Jolly had shown me, but this time the y-axis was not safety margin. It was human lives. At that moment, the corrupted file finally executed. The shame was no longer a whisper of doubt. It was a scream. The emotional jettison I had performed on, and Jolly was now reversed. All the shame I had cussed out, all the vulnerability I had suppressed, came crashing back into the system, amplified by the gravity of its consequences. It wasn't a burn. It was a crash. And the system reboot that followed was haunted. The ghost of that freaking idiot's comment is still in the code. A bug I can't delete. Silence. The confession hangs in the void of the PFCizer's interface. There is no judgment, no reaction, only the cold hum of the system processing a massive, uncompressed file of raw vulnerability. PFCizer. Shame data integration. Complete.
Oh, wow.
Core concept unlocked. Interior simulate cortex at calibration. Objective. The ACK acts as the brain's conflict monitor. It flags the error between what I am doing and what I should be doing. You have previously treated its error signals as shame to be suppressed. A healthy system treats them as corrective indices to be integrated. Your ability to articulate the crash sequence proves the ACK signal is now being received, not rejected. Technician, you've learned to read the dashboard. You can see the warnings. The next step in the protocol is to upgrade your input device from reading text to receiving live audio. Empathy as high-fidelity signal processing is an abstract concept until you have to endure a stream of raw signal without being able to filter, solutionize, or shut it down. Session 6. Mirror neural network activation. Objective. Listen to low-level employee concerns for a sustained period in a regulated environment without the ability to fix, solutionize, or fire them. The goal is not to solve their problems. The goal is simply to stay present and reflect.
Hold space.
This is the ultimate mental endurance hold. Scenario. You are seated at a simple table in a small, soundproofed room. A live, one-way audio feed is piped in from a federal employee grievance forum, a mandatory but notoriously ignored gathering where staff can air non-critical, systemic frustrations. You have a single button in front of you labeled Next. You cannot speak. Your screen displays a real-time analysis of the speaker's biometrics, heart rate, stress markers, vocal pitch. Your sole instruction is to remain connected to each speaker until either the speaker concludes their point or your internal compassion fatigue metric crosses a 75% threshold, at which point you may press next. Your score will be based on the number of speakers you can endure without disengaging and your ability to keep your own stress biometrics level from spiking in response to theirs. The feed crackles to life. The first speaker's voice filters through. It's a woman, an administrative assistant from procurement. And I just want to note why we have to use the new reimbursement portal for travel under $500, but the old one for anything over $500. The old portal automatically populates the DUNS number. The new one, you have to look it up manually in a different system. I spend, and I have timed it, an average of 8 minutes per travel voucher just cross-referencing codes. It's thousands of man-hours a year across the agency for a system that is demonstrably less efficient. It's mind-boggling. My brain explodes. This isn't just inefficiency, it's an asterisk abomination asterisk. It's a recursive logic error creating a compute farm for paperwork. My entire operating system screams to formulate a solution. I see the fix in seconds. A simple API call to sync the two databases. A 1-week project. I could build it myself. My finger twitches toward a keyboard that isn't there. I feel a spike of anxiety. My own stress metric on the screen flashes yellow. The PFCizer's analysis is merciless. Frustration spike. Attempting to problem solve. Mission fail imminent. Engage. Passive reception protocol. The brake pedal is a ghost. I have to will it into existence. I force a breath. My focus is not on her words, the problem, but on the asterisk signal asterisk. Her vocal tone isn't angry, it's bone weary. A note of resignation. She's not complaining to change the world. She's complaining because no one is listening. This isn't a technical debrief. It's a distress beacon. I don't press next. Her frustration is an artifact of a system that has broken her spirit. I must endure the artifact. Thank you, a moderator's distant voice says. Next. A new speaker. A man, middle age. A facilities manager. His pitch is higher, strained. Anger. It's the lighting in the West Wing archive. The fixtures are buzzing. Constant, 60 hertz hum. Maintenance put in a work order 3 months ago. Said the parts are on back order. My people are getting headaches. Migraines. We've had a 20% increase in sick days on the floor in the last quarter. They go on disability for stress, but we all know it's the noise, the light, the relentless, soul-grinding buzz. It's a hostile work environment, and it's being ignored because it's not a sexy project for someone's portfolio. Again, the impulse is surgical. My mind accesses procurement records, cross-references with those surplus parts inventory. A 100-watt ballast for an wise fixture. There are 5,000 of them in a warehouse in Maryland. I could dispatch a team tomorrow. I could fix it. The urge to tweet fixing the buzzing lights is so powerful it feels like a seizure. The PFCizer interface flashes. Password control urge to deploy. Record the sensation. This is a new level of hell. To know the solution, to possess the power to execute it, and to be forced to do nothing is its own form of psychological torture. It's the opposite of powerlessness. It's purposeful constraint. I'm supposed to feel. No. My job is to sit in the humming room, to feel the headache bloom behind my own eyes. to let the buzz of his anger fill my oral cortex unfiltered. I close my eyes. The buzz is there, a phantom tinnitus. I don't press next. The pattern repeats. A younger man, a junior analyst. His stress markers are off the charts, but he's trying to hide it with bravado. He's talking about a manager who steals credit for his Excel models. It's not about the credit, he's saying, the light tasting like acid in my speakers. It's about the integrity of the data trail. If he presents a model he doesn't understand, a senior leader could make a multi-billion-dollar decision based on flawed assumptions because he can't defend the pivot tables. The desperation isn't for promotion, it's for a defense mechanism against incompetence that could burn the entire department down. He's scared of being the last one holding the flaming bag of data. Another, a woman from HR, her voice, a flat, effectless monotone. She's describing the emotional toll of counseling staffers after their projects are defunded. She uses phrases like administrative attrition and personnel reallocation, but the biometric feed shows a cortisol spike that is practically a scream. She is a trauma sponge for the entire agency, and her own system is failing. I can feel it, an osmotic transfer of every complaint, every frustration, every drop of quiet despair. The procurement assistant's weariness, the facilities manager's righteous anger, the analyst's terror, the HR counselor's burnout.
Pretty soon it'll be
They're not problems to be solved. They're signals. A multiplex, high bandwidth emotional data stream. My screen is a blizzard of stress alerts, heart rate spikes, and pitch variations. My own biometric readout is a new concern. My heart rate is climbing. Respiration is shallow. The PFCizer notes it dispassionately. Klein stress metrics mirroring source. Mirror neural network engagement. Initializing. Asterisks. This is the workout, not the listening. The resisting, the desire to lob off, to declare this an inefficient use of my processing cycles and move on is a tidal wave. The ego wants a lever to pull, a button to push, an enemy to vanquish. But here there is no lever, there is no enemy, there is only the signal. And then comes the final speaker, the one who breaks the system. Her voice is frail, cracked, like dry leaves skittering on pavement, an elderly woman from the mail room. I wanted to report, she begins hesitating, that the rubber finger cuts in the sorting room. They're out of the large size. Silence on the feed. The moderator is clearly nonplussed. Is that all mess? Cable? Yes, she says, her voice trembling with a shame so profound it makes me ache. They only have the small and medium. The large ones fit better. They don't chafe? My hands, after 8 hours of sorting, they get raw. The skin, it breaks. The cotton gloves we have don't give us the grip for the interagency envelopes. We're dropping them. Mix-ups happen. Then we get written up for a mix-up. My mind, the hyper-optimization engine, screeches to a halt. Procurement, inventory management, human factors, ergonomics. $1 trillion governmental apparatus is being tripped up by a supply chain issue for rubber finger cots. I can see the whole causal chain in my head. The minimum wage bidder for the supply contract won. They only stopped the 3 most common sizes. The procurement officer who signed off never looked at an ergonomic study. They saw rubber finger cuts 100,000 units and hit approve. No malice, just systemic oversight. But at the terminus of that oversight is a mess. Gable, with a raw, broken skin on her hands. She's not a person to this system. She's a wear and tear cost. A variable and a budget line item. My brain offers the solution with terrifying speed. Osters by the company that makes the finger cuts. Retool the factory to exclusively produce that large variant. Create a non-profit that will subsidize the cost in perpetuity to any government mailroom. Sign the check. Asperus, the power is there. The impulse is absolute. And then I see it on her biometric readout.
Yeah.
Her heart rate isn't high. She isn't angry. It's a flat, exhausted line. Her stress markers are clinically depressed. Her fight or flight response has atrophied. She is not complaining to get them fixed anymore. She is reporting a failure because it is her job. She has been worn down to the null. This isn't a distress beacon. It's the final ping from a dead satellite. This is not a signal to be processed. This is a human being who has been processed by the signal into a state of quiet resignation. And I feel something, a sensation utterly alien to my previous neural architecture. The PFCizer would likely label it prosocial effect. It's a hot, sharp pressure behind my eyes. My screen flashes. Compassion fatigue metric. 84%. My body demands I press the next button to sever the connection, to escape the intimate, grinding, unglamorous reality of her broken skin. I don't. Instead, I force myself to stay on her signal. I don't look for solutions. I imagine the feeling, the raw sting, the stinging sweat, the fear of a write-up for a dropped envelope, the loneliness of being an old woman, invisible, in a world of towering systems and thunderous ambitions.
80.
My hand hovers over the next button,
Someone's
shaking with the
becoming
suppressed
dateable.
energy. I am holding this tiny, insignificant, all-consuming problem in my mind. I am refusing to let it go. This is the endurance hold. This is the last rep of a set you didn't know you were doing. After a minute of silence on the feed, the moderator, with professional pity, says, "Thank you, Miss Gable. That is noted." The feed clicks to static. The session is over. My screen updates. Session 6. Complete. Duration connected. 47 minutes. Speakers endured. 7/7. Compassion fatigue threshold exceeded. Yes. Peak. 92%. Final score. A sufficient neural pathway engagement. There's a voice. The endurance hold. Satisfactory. You resisted the urge to solutionize and allowed the raw signal to fully penetrate the system. The point of this exercise was not to fix the buzzing lights or the fraudulent manager. The point was to teach the processor a new command. Endure. You have learned that not every signal requires a code response. Some require memory allocation, some require processing, and some just require a buffer. You have installed a dedicated buffer for human suffering. This is a critical component of Phase 3. System update. Moving from cognitive simulation to prosocial action. Welcome to Phase 3. Interconnectivity upgrade. Objective. to foster an intrinsic desire to elevate others without viewing oneself as the Messiah. Moving from understanding the signal to being a source of positive signal is your voice. Technician, you have spent weeks training in the gym. You've mastered the form of the lifts. You understand the mechanics of the signal, but the purpose of building muscle is to do useful work in the world. It's time to put the swole PFC to use outside the controlled environment of these sessions. We must convert trained potential into kinetic action. Discuss. Session 7. The Anonymous Builder. The objective. Perform a structural improvement, an act of kindness, a systemic fix for another individual or group without signing the check or the tweet. The work must be done with no one watching. The entire effort, from conception to execution, must be scrubbed of your identity. Scenario. You have identified a target for your training exercise. It is not a multi-billion-dollar rocket or a microgrid for a city. Your objective is a mass, cable from the mail room. The problem. The supply contract for large rubber finger cots is held by a subsidiary of a logistics conglomerate you despise. A simple direct purchase is out. You must engineer an end-to-end solution to provide a mess. Gable and her colleagues with an unlimited supply of the correct finger cots. You cannot use your name, your corporate accounts, or any executive authority traceable to you. You must solve this like an unresourced activist, not like the richest man in the world. The success of the exercise is not in the delivery of the goods. It is in the perfection of the anonymity. Asterisk. This feels wrong. My entire system is built on branding, on announcing the victory, on recruiting talent to the mission by demonstrating the capability to win. To build a thing and hide it is to waste the signal. It's like launching a satellite into a black hole. The PFCizer interface is already preempting my rebellion. Alert. Ego projection subsystem overclocking. Messianic delusion protocol violation imminent. Directive. Reframed. This is not charity. This is stealth system debugging. You are testing the hypothesis that your PFC can sustain motivation without dopamine hits from public acknowledgement. This is pure R&D on your own architecture. I stand in my office, looking out at the Washington Monument. The PFCizer is correct. The challenge is no longer the external problem, finger cots. It is the internal one, my own desperate need for the credit. I have to hack my own motivational loop. My old process. Identify a problem. Appoint a lead. Allocate resources. Announce the initiative. Bask in the public perception of competence. The anonymous builder protocol is the inversion. I have no authority. I have no resources. I have no one I can officially command. I am now effectively a ghost, a user with admin privileges, but who cannot log their activity. I cannot call procurement. That would leave a digital trail a mile wide. I cannot use my laptop on the secure network. I need an offline node. The PFCizer's briefing materials from the earlier exercises flood back to me. Ben, the field validator, Kenji, the technical lead. They are part of my newly deployed human network. They are my assets, but they are also my firewalls. My actions must be plausible deniability incarnate. Each step must have a legitimate cover story. Each request masked as a routine part of their job. I open a new, unsecured laptop I keep in a drawer for extracurricular activities. I begin the work, not as a CEO, but as a signals intelligence analyst targeting my own organization. Step 1. Precautions. The supply contract is a fortress of bureaucratic PFCizer. I trace it back. Gloves and More Logistics LLC, a subsidiary of a behemoth I'd once shorted. They want a bid based on volume and price per unit for a standard 3-pack. The contract, 150 pages long, lists specifications to the macron, but it's a generic term. It's clear no one who actually handles mail ever read it. The flaw is one of specification, not enforcement. I need a supplier, not my usual vendors. I need one so small, so unremarkable that my name would mean nothing to them. I dive into the dark web of industrial supply, not the criminal one, but the obscure one. Chinese business-to-business portals, European rubber cooperatives, American Midwestern manufacturers still running equipment from the 1970s.
The Amish.
I find
They
one,
wouldn't use it.
Baker Bros, Rubber and Elastomers, located in Akron, Ohio. Family owned since 1948.
Like a true South African.
Their website
Ohio.
looks like it was designed in 1998 and never updated. They specialize in custom runs for medical and industrial applications. They have a large finger cart. They can ship 50,000 units in a plain brown box within a week. They can invoice B&B Consulting. I create a burner LLC in Delaware online in 12 minutes. B&B Consulting. The irony isn't lost on me. I fund it with a cryptocurrency transfer, laundered through 2 exchanges and a digital art purchase to obfuscate the origin. It's resource intensive, but it's a puzzle, and I love puzzles. Step 2, head infiltration. I cannot have a crate of industrial rubber delivered to the Eisenhower executive office built in a dressed mail room. That would trigger every security protocol imaginable. I need an insider, a Trojan horse, an asset whose role gives them plausible cover. I compose an email to Ben, my field validator. The protocol demands that the cover story be bulletproof. I can't just ask for a favor. Subject: field asset infrastructure stress test. Ben, as part of our new proactive failure analysis program, I need a field test of a low-cost, rapid asset deployment scenario. The objective is not the assets themselves, but the asterisk delivery mechanism asterisk. We are testing the integrity of internal receiving and distribution pathways for a high-volume, low-value consumable without invoking formal procurement channels. The test asset: 30 pounds of custom dimension polymer samples. Total cost $150. The test parameters: delivery must be directly to a ground floor unit handling logistical throughput ID, a receiving dock, bypassing the central mailroom to simulate a field emergency resupply. I need you to authorize the incoming package and oversee its immediate distribution to a pre-selected test group. Choose one. Let's use the internal mail sorters in the West Wing. Their handling of small, sensitive packages makes them an ideal test population for grip efficacy and material durability under repetitive strain conditions. The package will arrive in an unmarked box. Your task is to receive it, sign for it as a field validation test, and distribute the contents to the sorters. Have them fill out a simple 1-page survey on comfort and fit. The survey is a secondary data gathering exercise. Under no circumstances are you to mention my name or your new title. You are simply a team lead conducting a routine protocol stress test. It is clean. Every word is true from a certain point of view. I am, in fact, testing a delivery system.
Use that shit for good.
Ampoules. An emergency of sorts. The lie is a thing of structure, not of substance. Ben's response is swift. Understood. Send the coordinates. At 3. Fusion. I placed the order with Baker Bros. Rubber. Billed to B and B Consulting. Shipped to receiving Dock 3 Ab Atom. Ben Tanaka. Asset validation. I add a note. Contents. Industrial polymer grip samples for durability testing. No commercial value. Dispose of packaging. A week later, my secure monitor pings with a delivery confirmation. A closed-loop system. The box has landed. The urge to check in, to send a follow-up. Did you get it? Is a low-grade fever. My PFC, now hardened by weeks of reprogramming, recognizes this as a dopamine quest impulse and categorizes it for deletion. I force myself to my next task. I trust the system.
All of the new tropics he's using
Tap 4.
makes all this
Signal
guy
reception, the ghost in the machine. A day later, I am walking past the mail room on my way to a different meeting. My routes are now being subconsciously altered to pass through signal-rich environments. I am walking slower, my peripheral vision dialed up to its maximum setting. I see Ben. He is leaning against a wall, talking to an older woman with her hands on her hips. Miss Gable. She is no longer the trembling, broken-voiced ghost from the audio feed. She is gesticulating, flexing her fingers, which are now encased in what look like slightly oversized, flesh-colored finger cogs. They feel different, but not in a bad way. I can hear her say as I pass, her voice no longer a cracked whisper, but a clear, if weathered, alto. Benner. You can actually feel the envelope texture without your thumb slipping. The old ones, you had to pinch so hard your nail would turn blue. Ben nods, making a note on a simple clipboard. The cover story holds perfectly. He is just a diligent team lead. Mess. Gable is just a helpful subject providing product feedback. In their reality, this is a minor, slightly annoying bureaucratic task. In my reality, I just quietly change the daily physical experience of a dozen people I will never meet. A strange new sensation washes over me. It's not the dopamine surge of a launch. It's not the pride of a successful acquisition. It's cool. Quiet, clean efficiency. The universe's thermodynamic entropy had been locally decreased by 0.01% due to a single, anonymous intervention, and the only person who knew it was me. It feels like a secret, a good secret. As I round the corner, I catch a glimpse of the survey sheet on Ben's clipboard. It's a simple 1-5 scale. I see a column of hastily drawn check marks, overwhelmingly in the 5 box. The PFCizer window materializes, unbidden. System check. Post-action emotional residue scan. Complete. Primary emotion detected. Quiet back. Secondary emotion detected. Intrinsic motivation reinforced plus 12%. Messianic delusion metric 0% suppressed. Anonymity successfully reframed as system purity. Objective. The anonymous builder. complete as her voice. A different kind of Roy, not on a balance sheet, but on the balance of well-being in the system. You have proven your ability to perform work for its own sake, but can you perform real-time adjustment in a volatile social environment? Not by installing new parts, but by changing the atmospheric pressure in the room? Now we test the nuance of your touch. Welcome to atmospheric attunement.
Okay, we're gonna stop there because I gotta go to work. Gotta go to work. Man, I'm I'm rooting for Elon here. Actually, um, Donald Trump was offered a similar exercise to solve the problem and to not be credited for it. He goes, no, 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 no. That's dangerous. In fact, get this away from me. In fact, we're gonna figure out who in the White House has put this in my on my table. Um, so the fact that he nailed it, he slayed it. Uh, I'm gonna have to think somewhat differently about simulated Elon Musk. I don't think actual Elon Musk uh, would want to, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe the counterfactual is pointing to a deeper truth within. We'll see. More soon.